My expectations, you have out your pen or pencil, your homework, if you had it last night, and notes. All right, so we've already talked about the bryophytes, the pteridophytes, and the gymnosperms, and we've gone through the classification tree showing how each time we make a dichotomous choice. Dichotomous means two. It's this or not this. And so that brings us to our last phyla, and that's the angiosperms. Okay, so angiosperms are my favorite. There are flowering plants, and of course we're going to have to add some more choices to your plate. They come in two kinds. You have the monocots and the dicots, and these are referring to the cotyledon or the seed leaf. So just to take your memory back really quickly, these plants are going to be vascular. They're going to reproduce with seeds, and they're going to be covered seeds. So when we start talking about the seeds, we're talking about what's going on inside. So with this word cotyledon is a seed leaf. And so when you look at if you were able to slice a seed open and look at it in halves, you would see either one seed leaf, and let me see if I can get my pen here. You could either see one seed leaf, which is like right here, and that's a monocot, which means one, mono, or you would have two seed leaves, cotyledons, and these are the kind of things that are going to sprout out of the plant. And then this is two, and that's going to be dicot. So like I said, monocots mean one, and dicot means two. And so here, I'd forgotten that I had this little overshadowing. It's showing you the differences. The blue is the one, and then you have the double blue on the other side. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at what this means. This is a monocot. It looks like a corn seed. And so when you split it in half, it's got one cotyledon, one seed leaf, and you can see that when it sprouts, that seed leaf comes up straight from the middle, and there is just that one. Dicots are going to have two, and they're going to sprout out. And if you look at the difference of once they sprout, you can see that the monocot has this single shoot with this single leaf, and the dicot has two. So now we're going to look at these flowering plants. Excuse me, these flowering plants, and they're going to have differences in them too between monocots and dicots. Okay, you can tell what a plant is, whether it's a monocot or a dicot, without examining its seed. It's highly inconvenient to have to try to split the seed open. You need to have some kind of a hand lens to be able to zoom in on that. So there are ways that we can tell which type of plant or angiosperm this is. Monocot, first of all, you look at the leaves. Monocot have parallel veins. I'm not doing a very good job of drawing these parallel, but they have these parallel veins that just run smooth on the leaf. A lot of times, just as another observation, the leaves are long and thin. That's not a hard, fast rule, but that's a pretty good indication. Dicots have network veins, so it looks like this. The next thing is we can tell from the flower petals. Monocots have flower petals that are in multiples of threes. And what does that mean? Well, multiples of three means each layer would have three petals. So if this is a single layer flower, it only has three petals. If it has 6 petals, you'll have a layer of 3 and then a layer of 3. I have pictures later on that show that a little bit better, so if you can just be patient on that one. Dicots, they are in layers of 4s and 5s. So if it's a single layer flower like these two, it's going to have 4 petals. Here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then this one's going to have 5 on a single layer. So you start looking at some of these and you say, well, okay, let's see what this is here. You can see the layers, and it's going to be hard for me to illustrate this without being able to actually pull this apart. But you can see how this layer right here is on top of this one right here. This layer is underneath. So we have 1, 2, and 3. That's our first layer. Then you have your next layer, which is let me see if I can change colors of pens. It's not letting me change my pen. Oh, there we go. Let's change it to a blue. Then you have 1, to be able to see these, and it's super hard. 2, and I'm making a mess out of it. 3, and that would be the second layer. And then so each layer is going to have 3. So this flower is indeed a monocot. Another way that you can tell the differences between their roots. Monocots have fibrous roots. They look like a little broom or hair, like crazy hair, really hairy. Dicots have what we call a taproot, and it's where you have this one major thick root that goes down, and now it may have little roots that go off of it, but it's going to have this one major root. Here's another view of that. This one's got the hairy looking root, and this one has that one major root going down, and then other little roots come off of it. Okay, the next way you can tell is from vascular tissue. Vascular tissue, this is looking at those tubes. Remember we talked about yesterday the xylem and the phloem, and you saw the end of the celery where we could actually see the ends of those tubes. Monocots have just chaotic. Their bundles are just all over the place. So they have these tubes, and there's no real organization. I mean, granted, you have this nice ring around the outside on this monocot, but it's not all organized in here. It's just kind of wherever. The vascular tissue on a dicot is very organized. It's in a circular pattern. And so you have your phloem here in the dark black, and then you have your xylem here, and these tubes are going to flow through the whole stem. Leaves in the back. You have the leaves in the background to tell you. So if you can't tell from the flower, you can tell from the leaves in the background. So you look at this one and you say, okay, these leaves have parallel veins. I already know it's going to be a monocot, but let's just look at this flower. Here is 1 on the first layer. The back here is 2 on the first layer, and here's number 3. So they're in layers of 3. So we know that this is a monocot. Bromeliads, you can tell straight away because of the leaves. They're parallel veins. They're also in layers of 3 for the flowers. If you take a minute to look at that, you'd be able to pick those out. This is indeed a monocot. If you just look at this leaf, you know that this leaf came from a dicot because of the network veins. This flower is very simple. It only has 3 petals. You know that it's a monocot. And if you weren't sure, you could look at the leaves in the background, and they have parallel veins. Again, this is a leaf that has parallel veins, so without seeing anything else, you know it's a monocot. You say, whoa, what about these? And so you look at this and you're like, well, there's no way I can tell what the layers are. And flowers, I'm going to tell you as a general rule, flowers that are extremely complex they are usually monocots. But if you couldn't tell from that, you can at least see the leaves on here, like this one right here. You can see that it has network veins. So they are dicots. Looking at this root, it doesn't have one main root. It has lots of hair. It's a monocot. Now this picture I put on here to trick you, because you would say, well, I'm just going to take the easy route and look at the leaf. And you look at the leaf in the back and you go, oh, look, it's a dicot because it's got parallel or it's got network veins, except for this leaf didn't come from this flower. It's a dead leaf in the background. So when you look at this flower, and if you break it down and you get here, this one, I don't know why my pen does that, this one and this one on the top layer, then there's one more layer, you know indeed that this is a monocot. Okay, tulips, if you break tulips down, they are also in layers of 3 petals. They have parallel veins, so tulips are monocots. Okay, look at this one. This one is a dicot. This is a taproot. This gives you a nice view of what a taproot could look like. That's a pretty sturdy one. Sometimes they're not quite that big, but clearly that's a dicot. Okay. Complex flower, but if you wanted to, you could try to see. You got this here, that one, that one, that one's on top. It looks like that one's on top. So maybe groups of 5. Like I said, these are pretty tough to do, but it's what it looks like, and it's a complex flower, so you can be pretty safe in saying it's a dicot. Again, a complex flower, it's a dicot. We can't, why we can't do without plants. Plants do so much in our lives. We just don't even stop to think about it half the time. They produce our oxygen, which is the biggest thing, because if you can't breathe, you're not going to be alive. They produce lumber for us to build things. They give us homes for organisms and for us. They prevent erosion, so that when you have plants and roots that are dug in, it keeps the dirt from being blown away. They're used for food. We eat lots of plants for vegetables and salads and everything else. Other reasons we can't live without plants would be we use them for paper products, and that includes toilet paper, the paper we write on, etc. They are also the source of lots of medicines. They're ornamental and they're beautiful. We like to have them in our yards, and they also provide shade for us, which helps cut down on our cooling expenses. And we use them for fabrics, just for our clothing and such, like cotton. Cotton is a plant, and we use that a lot. And then again, we use them for dyes as well, just for pretty things.